Peter, thank you so much for the invitation.
Good afternoon, staff. Welcome to 3As.
Thank you so much. We've had a fantastic day in terms of looking at Aspire House. It looks magnificent. I mean,
Thank you.
It looks really fantastic. Again, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very, very busy individual. So really appreciate that.
No problem at all.
Just a little bit in terms of where you are currently. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about the journey, but a little bit about yourself. And obviously AAA 3A.
Yeah, well, I'm Group Chief Exec of 3As and the joint owner, together with my business colleague Di McEvoy-Robinson. We set the business up back in 2008. Yeah. It's been an interesting journey over those 9 years or so. And we stand today, we're an apprenticeship, privately owned apprenticeship provider. I think we're the biggest privately owned apprenticeship provider in the UK. We operate and have built over really the last 5 or 6 years 40 centres. We call them academies, so really high quality training facilities across most major towns and cities in the UK. And most recently we've opened an academy in the United States, in Maryland, where we're trialling and testing a new model of delivery of apprenticeships in the United States. And we're focused very much upon offering apprenticeships for what we call the professional services sector. And by that I mean digital technologies, IT, finance, financial services. You want to be a stockbroker or merchant banker, business admin and customer service. And probably emergingly, most recently, the whole area of management development and working with organisations, large and small, to develop management development programs.
Fantastic.
About 4,500 apprentices each year that we work with, predominantly in that sort of 16 to 21 year old age group. So we're the biggest provider in that age group. And we offer predominantly level 3, A-level equivalent, and level 4, foundation degree equivalent for young people who are making the choice to do an apprenticeship and develop their careers as a defined logical choice rather than actually wanting to go to university.
Not forgetting that you're a grade 1 provider.
And we're an Ofsted grade 1 provider. Yes, it seems a long time ago now. November 2014, we had our Ofsted inspection and we got grade 1s across the board. So we're one of very, very few providers in the country that has got grade 1 Ofsted, and we're the first provider in the country to ever get Ofsted across all of our aspects of our provision at a first inspection. So yeah, we're very, very proud of that. Sometimes we forget about it, but very proud of that in terms of...
No, we can't forget about it. That's a fantastic achievement, particularly for anybody that's from the independent training provider sort of sector. It's a magnificent
thank you.
Achievement.
We worked hard.
Yes. A little bit about, if we can, obviously the journey that you've had, and the ups and downs, the highs and lows. You're well known as starting off life as an apprentice. But if you don't mind sharing that with us in terms of the early days.
Yeah, no problem. I was born and brought up as a son of a postmaster back in the day, and my mother, who fortunately is still alive, she's 91 this year. She said to me at a very young age, son, you're going to be a bank manager or an accountant because you're no good with your hands. So that was my destiny, I think, because I got a lot of support from both my parents. I swam at a very, very high level and was in the junior England squad. But at the age of 16, I left school with quite a lot of O-levels and CSEs, as I think we called them then, and joined Derbyshire County Council and did an apprenticeship programme to be a trainee accountant. And went on a journey with them. I joined in 1980 and I earned £1,980 a year. So about 40 quid a week, I think, in those terms. I qualified at the age of 21 as an accountant with Derbyshire County Council. I then left there and joined the civil service for a couple of years, which I didn't like. And then in 1990 was headhunted by KPMG and joined KPMG in their Birmingham office. And then when I was about 31, 32, was made a partner within KPMG, which was a big achievement because graduate entry, a lot of graduate entry. And I was very proud of that achievement. And I built their education practice. So I was their lead partner in the UK, building not only an audit practice servicing universities, the government, but we also built a very substantial consultancy business as well in that education space.
So there's working with colleges, other training providers.
Colleges were incorporated in 1992, and I got really heavily involved in that during that stage. And then in 2002...
That must have been FEFC days, is it?
It was FFC, yeah, it was. Then in 2002, I was headhunted for a job with another large firm of accountants. And this is probably a light bulb moment in my career. And one day I'll go and talk to this chap and thank him very much. And it was a very senior role within this practice. And they offered me the job, and I said I'd take the job. But as I came out the building in London, the deputy UK senior partner of that organisation said to me, he tapped me on the shoulders and he said, "Peter, you should be running your own business."
Wow.
And I got in the car and rang my wife at that time and said, "I've got the job, but he said I should be running my own business."
So it's a life-changing...
And it was a huge life-changing. Never ever thought of being a businessman, an entrepreneur or anything like that. And then 6 months later, I gave it all up from KPMG and left.
All the security, all the sort of...
The big pay packet, everything, gave it all up, and I'd got a big house with a big mortgage and 2 young kids, and actually a very supportive wife, who we're no longer together, but she was very, very supportive. And I joined a small training provider in the northeast, took a huge salary cut, and then after about 4 or 5 months did a management buyout of that business.
This is Assa?
This was Assa. Wasn't planned, wasn't a planned thing. It was purely a chance that came along. And I did a management buyout. I didn't know what management buyouts were. I didn't know what private equity was or anything of that nature. And we were able to do a management buyout with the team. And then 2 years later, we sold the business. We were approached to sell the business to Carter & Carter. And in 2005,
I think they were the largest provider
led by Phil Carter, who was very inspirational. And in 2005, sold the business to Carter & Carter very successfully. Retired.
Gave it all up.
Gave it all up. Didn't have anything to do, and then
sit on the beach. Or,
Then that lasted about 3 weeks, and then worked with Carter & Carter. Worked with Phil very closely. Until his very untimely death. And then I left Carter & Carter more or less straight away, retired again, and then as one does, I decided that I was going to buy the local football club, which was an interesting experience.
Casually. So this is Derby County.
Derby County. So in 2006, bought Derby County Football Club. We were really at the bottom of the championship.
You were able to progress.
And we appointed a really good manager, and within 12 months we went to the Premier League. It was an amazing journey.
Complete turnaround.
Many ups and downs. It was about appointing the right person, backing the right person. When we got to the Premier League, it was a bit of a disaster, but we then sold it to an American consortium. And that takes us probably up to about 2008, 2009.
Which is the AAA story started.
Which is the AAA story started. Di and I sat and had a cup of coffee. We'd known each other for many, many years. And we said, I was in a position where I was retired again, but I needed to keep my brain going. And we decided to set off on this journey together.
What was the sector like at the time, 2008? What was that? Is it train to gain days?
It was train to gain, so huge volumes of subcontracting, emergence of train to gain, really.
College mergers.
A lot of college mergers going on.
Even then, I think.
And our model was very much working in partnership with colleges. We didn't have a contract. We were subcontracting with colleges at that time. And indeed, those colleges that originally backed us as a business, we still work with today. And we're very loyal to those partnerships that we worked with at that time. And that's how we built the business. Initially in the logistics sector, working with organisations like TNT, Arla Foods, Morrison's.
You were able to get the larger employers on board and obviously go to the colleges, which are not so well known as maybe possibly with their employee engagement.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And what we did is we called part of our business the National Logistics Partnership. We always remember this. And for some reason, we'd ring up and say, we are from the National Logistics Partnership. And it gave us instant credibility.
Yeah.
We had no idea what we were doing.
It's all about branding.
But it got us in with a very strong brand at that time.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, we created the 3A's business that we know today,
Right.
which was around the focus on young people, apprenticeships for young people. I have an absolute passion for that. Both of my children did apprenticeships. Both of my stepchildren have done apprenticeships and have gone on to have very, very successful careers themselves. So I have an absolute passion about apprenticeships and supporting young people to develop and engage and improve their lives, both socially, in terms of social mobility, and their careers. Yeah. And that takes us to today, probably.
Yeah. Just in terms of the AAA aspect of it, obviously going into apprenticeships, I mean, a lot of the colleges were sort of, it was sort of closing down some of the partnerships in some aspects of it, because obviously they're going through their changes, Train to Gain sort of dying off, and apprenticeships coming in. How did is that one of the reasons you moved into the apprenticeship sector in terms of the changes in FE sector? Was that a natural?
We took a view that we had very high achievement rates within our Train to Gain model.
Yeah.
But back in, I can't remember what year it was, around about 2010-11, the government moved from Train to Gain to adult apprenticeships,
right.
If you remember. And what happened was we were in the logistics space. We didn't believe that we would be able to deliver functional skills to lorry drivers.
Yes.
And therefore we felt that our achievement rates would drop very dramatically, and we didn't want to do that.
Yes.
So we took a strategic decision. It was a very tough decision for the business, that we were going to go into a different sector, a different profile, and therefore we built our apprenticeship business, again working with partners. The first, people probably don't know, but the first 10 centres we opened were actually physically in college premises. Our first centre, February 2011, was in Walsall College's centre. We then opened at Bedford College with Ian Price, OBE, as he is now, and gradually built our development working in partnership with colleges, where they provided the quality infrastructure, and we brought that entrepreneurial flair to go out and engage with business to secure the jobs for the young people, and also develop and deliver that quality training. So it was a great partnership, actually, working with the colleges at that time.
And these were all branded as your...
They were branded them as NITP, National IT Partnership, go back to the National Logistics Partnership. And then we gradually phased that brand out to form the original 3A's brand, and that's the brand now that we have and we have traction with in the market.
Yeah. I mean, who came up with the name?
DIE. Yeah, it stands for Aspire, Achieve, Advance.
Yes.
So DIE brought that in 2008, and it stuck. We've had lots of different modifications of how it looks, and some people call us 3A's, some call us 3 AAA's.
AAA, I call it AAA.
Some people just call us AAA. But it seems to work for us, and it's right at the top of the alphabet. So when everything comes out, we get up there first, and that wasn't deliberate. But it's been a good advantage for us.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that journey with us. But where is AAA at this moment in time? I mean, you mentioned in terms of some of the work with obviously the 40 centres, the work that you're doing in the USA. The sector itself is going through another sort of a massive transitional change. Maybe as big as where we moved from Train to Gain to sort of apprenticeships, and now we're going into sort of an employer-led model, and there's some changes there. And I've seen some of your posts on LinkedIn and also on your website, and you've done a lot of analysis and a lot of sort of sharing your thoughts with individuals. I mean, where is the brand now, and what's the future?
Well, I think the market over the last 12 to 18 months has probably gone through the biggest change it's gone through in the previous 30 years. I'm only 21, got no hair left, but one of the advantages, I suppose, is what I've seen and DIE has seen together, is that we've seen those huge changes in the market. And actually those changes often come round in cycles. So whilst we see
it's like fashion to us,
it is. While we see an employer-led model, and we see the levy coming into play, and we look at now the emergence of apprenticeships for most of the big professional occupations. Actually, if we go back 30 years, that's how it was. If you wanted to be an accountant, you went and did articled clerk's role, exactly what I did. And we're actually going very much back in many ways to that. And that is going to fundamentally, in my view, change the way business recruit people into the future, which will give apprentices huge opportunities. So I suppose my advice to anybody is, whilst there has been a lot of turmoil in the market with emergence of the register, the emergence of the tender for non-levy payers, the whole introduction of the levy and the 19,000 employers, 2.5 billion of tax. The view that we've always held and the way we've positioned the business is to have our own strategy and really to push that strategy forward at a managed way, such that we can manage the balance between growth and quality. That's really critical. And actually try not to get too deflected by some of the noise that sits around the marketplace. And so far, fingers crossed, we've actually been very successful in order to do that. And therefore for us, our business now is our existing academy business, which is heavily reliant upon the non-levy payers. We will continue to grow that business. Our 40 academies is a really powerful physical presence in those local communities to do two things really. One, to support the 20% off the job, which is going to real pressure and a real issue for a lot of providers. It isn't for us. But also for those large levy players that are operating in a national basis, we can provide local outlets to do delivery on behalf of those national players. So our academy network, that big investment we've made over the past 5 years, is really coming into its own now. Second strategy for us is around the levy. Huge opportunity, and we invested in that about a year ago. We developed a project management service. We have a delivery network. And as you've seen, we've appointed a new MD to that business and a new floor in our building in order to respond to that opportunity. So Dawn Whitemore is leading that on our behalf. And that presents a big opportunity, but it's a big change in the marketplace. I call it in our business a move from transactional selling to relationship selling. We're building long-term relationships with employers. So we're not actually driving for enrolments necessarily today. We're making sure that we're building programs, particularly management programs for those employers. And then the third prong of our business is the America business. It's about getting a hold on that market, building a brand new market that doesn't exist in the US. And we've really now started to gain traction. Again, a period of investment. And we're hoping that that investment generates some return. And then finally, something we've not really been involved in is the adult market. And that is something that we're looking to get involved in and get engaged with over the next couple of years or so. So splitting the business really into 3 or 4 operating divisions with quality spanning across all of those divisions.
I mean, there's another theme that runs throughout the conversations that we have with yourself and previously as well. It's all about partnerships as well, and as you said, partnerships with colleges before, partnerships with employers, long-standing partnerships, being loyal to, the people that have worked with you. So that's obviously
yes, absolutely right. If you take our partnership, if you look at our activities in the United States. We've gone into partnership with a charity. And actually, what do they bring to the party? They bring political influence, they bring local contacts, they bring a local passion to what we jointly want to achieve. And what we bring is that relationship, that entrepreneurial flair, that commercialism. Actually, we couldn't be as successful in the United States on our own, nor could they. But bringing those complementary skills together gives us both a fighting chance of making it a success. And in a way that encapsulates the partnership that Di and I have. Partnerships sometimes work, sometimes they don't work. And we've enjoyed a partnership of some ups and downs, but that partnership has worked very well, and I think is acknowledged in the sector as working very well, because what we've brought is complementary, equal but complementary skills to apply to the business, and that's enabled us to grow in a controlled way, quite rapid, but in a controlled way to manage what is at the heart of our business, which is quality teaching and learning.
Okay. I mean, a little bit about obviously, being able to sort of adapt Yourselves, you've done that. You're looking for opportunities. You're innovative as an organisation. Unfortunately, within our sector, within the sort of independent learning providers, independent training provider sector, there has been some organisations, unfortunately, that haven't been able to survive. What's your thoughts in terms of
I think it's a difficult one. There's a whole multitude of reasons why organisations haven't survived.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to leadership.
Yeah.
It all comes down to having a vision. Yeah. It all comes down to having a passion for what you want to do, and at the heart of what you want to do, yes, being clear that that's absolutely the right motivation. I always say, and I've said throughout my career, I'm never and never have been actually motivated by money. I have a passion for apprenticeships. Yeah. And if you have a passion and you get up in the morning for a passion for what you do, yeah, generally you'll make the right decisions. Yeah. And then sometimes, hopefully, the finances will flow from that. If you get up in the morning and say, I'm going to make £1 million today, yeah, yeah, you'll probably make the wrong decisions. Yeah. And there's a lot of young people I meet, yeah, who you go, what do you want to do? And they go, I want to be a millionaire. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the wrong answer. Yeah. The right answer is have a passion for what you want to do. Doing
it for the right reasons, isn't
Correct.
it? Yeah.
So if you want to make fish and chips, be the best at making fish and chips, yeah, yeah, and you'll run and open a branch of fish and chip shops, and the financial benefits will flow as a consequence because you'll have people queuing out the door.
Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, in terms of obviously your skill sets. I mean, you talked about talent management and appointing these individuals. There's an element of having a leadership and vision, but you've got these fantastic sort of leaders themselves. That you've recruited. How does that feel with an organisation where you're creating other leaders, and how how does that change the culture? How do you maintain that culture of?
It's the biggest challenge. We have 500 people. Our business has grown very significantly. If we look at our levy business, we'd probably be bringing in another 200 people in the next 12 months or so. From a situation a couple of years ago, where we had 200 people. Yeah. And therefore, the key thing, we're a people business. Yeah. And actually building, developing talent is absolutely critical. And it's really hard when you're an owner-manager to appreciate and understand that actually what you need to do is bring people into roles that are actually better than you. Yeah. But actually, if you accept that, actually your business continues to grow more rapidly than you would normally have expected it to. And also in around particularly that quality agenda again, bringing quality people in around that agenda enables the business to be secure around what it's about.
That's that quality thread throughout the organisation.
Absolutely, and it has to be at the heart of the organisation. And there are occasions where probably we've grown a little bit too quick, and then 6 months later you have a bit of a quality issue that you then have to address accordingly.
Get that back online.
So building and developing talent is absolutely critical. And one of the things we've done in the business, we're a levy payer. Yeah. So one of the things we're doing in the business is we've built a development program for our people, and our levy funds that we will be paying over, we will be using that to create a talent development program for our people.
Okay, so you're actually doing some sort of leadership management training, apprenticeship training as yourself?
Correct, and for all of our businesses that we're working with in the levy space, and we're working with businesses of PLCs, big organisations in the public sector, nearly every one of the businesses want to use their levy for management, to do talent development and talent management programs.
Well, I mean, what's the mix of the people that you currently employ? I mean, are there many apprentices? Are they graduates? Just to get
Yeah, well, we're an apprenticeship recruiter. Yeah. We have a policy that our supply chain, our suppliers in our supply chain, they have to appoint apprentices, not necessarily through us. Yeah. So, give you an example. 12 months ago, we changed our lawyers because they wouldn't take on apprenticeships. Right. So we changed our lawyers to a firm of lawyers that did take apprentices. Not necessarily with us, but it's about embracing the apprenticeship brand and that whole concept of what we're about. So we have 500 people. We have about 20 apprentices, 20 to 30 apprentices in our business. You've seen the marketing guys.
I've seen them. They're fantastic.
Who run all of our social media within our business, and they're on level 3 programs, level 4 programs. And then on top of that, we have about 150 to 200 trainers and assessors. We have what we call recruitment executives and apprenticeship executives who engage with local employers and engage with the apprentices. It's about 100 of them. And then we have a central infrastructure, about 70 people now in head office, and then other support roles.
Office sort of support roles.
Including the academy managers, 40 academy managers, and a regional quality infrastructure. And that makes up about the 500 people. We don't employ many graduates.
No. Okay, fantastic. In terms of obviously, the sort of program that you're doing, the leadership and management program, I mean, is that linked to an apprenticeship as well, or is that sort of bespoke? Or
so the new standards, the new apprenticeship standards have come out. There's the suite of standards around leadership and management. There's a level 3, a level 5, and a level 6 through the Chartered Management Institute. And in fact, they're coming to see me tomorrow about a strategic partnership with the CMI. And what we've done is we built that program on the CMI suite to deliver apprenticeship standards across both our clients, but also internally to build our talent.
I mean, Peter, a lot of sort of leaders that I speak to tend to find the fact that they use this phrase that there's not enough good people out there, you can't find the talent and so forth. Particularly with regard to the sort of the education and training sector, lack of assessors, lack of sort of skills within that. I mean, how has AAA sort of experience with regard to sort of finding?
Being grade 1 provider helps, so we've got lots of people that want to join us. However, I think it's a real key challenge for us. And I suppose it's an area that certainly we need to do more on about talent, building our own talent pipeline. We have what we've developed a CPD Academy. We really want to encourage people to do professional development. And therefore now within our contracts of employment with all of our trainers and assessors, we have 37 hours of CPD every year. We give them 37 hours to go out and do other things and build themselves, and we've got an infrastructure and a virtual learning environments and online training and material to do that. But it's something we need to do more on as a business, and we need to invest more as a business in that area. But it's something that we're very strongly at the core of what we're about.
Okay, fantastic. I want to change the topic slightly. Whenever I've read about you previously, it's been to do with sort of charitable work and the work that you've been doing in terms of giving back. And you talked about an element of giving back is the work, the time that you spend with your apprentices and so forth. And obviously you're very hands-on in terms of actually walking the floor and talking to people. But some aspects of it, in terms of Chris Evans' story, that you're synonymous with that. The work that you've been doing in terms of obviously the sort of whole charitable part of it. And again, the sort of you're talking about again part of your supply chain, and the fact that that's an element of looking at it's an element of giving back in another way. Just share your thoughts, Peter, in terms of obviously the whole sort of. So where does that come from, and
Well, we're as a business. We're an important part of the communities. We're in 40 communities across the UK, and we try and encourage that within our academy infrastructure. Again, it requires a little bit of leadership and direction, and that's what we do. So we have a nominated charity each year, and we try and get all 40 academies doing local silly things often in order to support those local charities. From a personal perspective, it's just philosophical, I think, that if you are able to give back, it's really important. However, it's not just about writing a cheque. In a way, anybody can write a cheque. Actually, what a lot of organisations require is actually the skills that you bring. So to give you an example, today I'm a finance committee chairman of a multi-academy trust, an organisation that's going through huge growth. And actually, I've spent 3 hours with the chief executive and the finance team today, actually hoping to bring my skills to help support how that business prepares itself for the growth that it's about to experience. And I think that's of equal relevance as it is to writing a cheque to charity.
Even more, because you can make a significant change to the organisation.
And as part of our management development programme that I talked about earlier, one of the things we're asking each of our members of staff to do is to go out and engage with a local charity or a local board of governors or another organisation where they can volunteer their time. We will provide that time.
Wow.
Where they can provide their time, and as part of their assessment of their completion of their management development programme, will be about the contribution that they brought to that organisation.
Right.
And therefore we will have 20, 30 people engaged across the country with local organisations in a substantive way, bringing their skills and experience. And I think that in itself is the broader involvement that we as a large business now, 500 people, £30 million turnover, it's something that we should deliver as part of our broader social inclusion agenda as a business. And certainly Di and I, both of us together, are very, very passionate about encouraging our people and providing our people with the time and space and support to do that.
That's a big investment there.
It is, but it will repay itself many times over.
I want to take some sort of value from yourself with this opportunity in terms of, obviously, you talked about entrepreneurialism and the changes going on. Where are the colleges at the moment, the further education sector? What's going on there? Your viewpoints in terms of the changes that are happening currently, that are likely to happen. Any advice for FE sector? As I said, you've been working with and have been involved in that sector for many years. And then secondly, people who are within this sector who possibly unsure in terms of if there's a future there. So there's a lot of things there. Just your sort of words of wisdom.
It's a long question, Saf, but
words of wisdom there.
Okay, let's break it down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of commentators in the sector who think Peter Marples is anti-FE, right? And there is nothing further from the truth. We built our business in partnership with FE, and actually, if you look at the approach to the levy, particularly in the public sector, we have created 6 strategic partnerships with 6 colleges across the country to joint proposition to the public sector. And there is an absolute opportunity for both the FE sector and the private training sector to come together to joint bid to give the best proposition and the best solution to those organisations. But in terms of FE, I think FE doesn't know what it is. It needs to determine what it is. Is it a 16 to 18 programme for young people? Is it an organisation that's focused on apprenticeships and engaging with business? And it needs to determine what it is in terms of its core business. And I think one of the huge disappointments over the last few years has been the reviews, the area review process. At a time of change, at a time of opportunity to grow businesses in the apprenticeship market, what has happened is a lot of colleges have taken their eye off the ball because they've been involved in the area review process. And we see almost daily now results of the area review process and proposed mergers, and those mergers collapsing. And that was an inevitability because in many respects that process was flawed. So for me, if I was running an FE institution, but they wouldn't have me. If I was running an FE institution, I would be saying, what is my core business? And decide
back to basics.
Back to basics. Decide what that core business is, and then aim to grow that core business and develop it. And actually, if we look at the levy, the sad thing about the levy is the levy has bypassed most of the colleges. Very few colleges are really active in that market, and therefore they've missed or potentially missed a huge opportunity. What we're trying to do is work in partnership with them so they get some part of the opportunity, particularly in that public sector area. If we look at the private sector market and the PTPs, we're a fragmented market. I say we're an industry of corner shops. We're now, I think, the 2nd or 3rd largest in the UK, and we're not massive in that sense. And therefore, there needs to be consolidation of that market. We need new entrants into the market, and ROTAP has tried to do that. But I think we need, as a group of private training providers, we need to behave differently. We have to think long term, not short term. And we've had a lot of providers that come into this market because they think they can make a quick buck.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is it's a tough market to be in, particularly if you're a prime and you hold your own contract. That's a responsibility that you have to hold dear, and a lot of subcontractors don't really understand what it means to be a prime, and they say they would love to be, but that causes issues in itself. So I think we need a matured private sector market. And as you've probably heard, and I will continue to say, if you're on ROTAP but you haven't got an SME contract, there is a huge levy market. There's 19,000 employers. We continue to talk to employers every day who've never heard of the levy. They've never spoken to a provider. And there are a huge number of very small levy payers. 10,000 of the levy payers, 50% of the levy payers, will have a levy bill of less than 20, 30, 40,000. And actually those people on ROTAP who are entering for the first time, who've had a track record of being a subcontractor, go get those customers.
Yes.
We are in a position of demand-led in a very true sense now. And really, my argument or my advice is stop your moaning, stop internalising, and get out into the market
And do it.
and happy hunting.
Yeah, fantastic. In terms of, obviously the future to a certain extent. I mean, you've obviously talked about yourself and your growth. You talked about obviously the opportunities there. Do you see sort of more mergers, more acquisitions, more sort of change? Do you see sort of private equity and those sort of organisations coming in? Is there going to be anything that we probably haven't seen in the past, or things in the past that might come back? As you said, there's a whole raft of things. Is there anything there that you think maybe?
I think the market is going to change, continue to change. We've seen the acquisition by City and Guilds this week, Gen 2, I think it is. And that's a new move into the market. And I think we'll see some more moves into the market. I think we will see some international players coming into the market from the United States who see this £2.5 billion a year opportunity and will want to invest. I don't see many mergers or acquisitions of smaller providers, because the opportunity for the larger providers is so big to grow their business organically rather than actually acquire through amalgam. But I think we will see over the next 2 years a consolidator in the market. Somebody that will emerge, don't think it'll be us, somebody who will emerge who's somebody who will start to buy up providers. Whether that's private equity backed or whether it's the formation of a PLC similar to Carter & Carter. And actually the Carter & Carter model was a good one. It had a visionary leader, and it was very, very unfortunate that what happened to that business. And therefore I think we will see some of that happening again over the next few years.
Is the UK a leader in apprenticeships? I mean, you're going obviously to the United States. I mean, we've been talking about apprenticeships for years in terms of the sector. There's other countries that are talking about apprenticeships. I mean, everybody keeps referring to the German model, the Europe model, and so forth, and the fact that we're behind. But where is the UK? Where are we in terms of comparison?
Compared with the States, we're probably 20 years ahead.
Wow.
And if you go to the States and you talk to the federal government and you talk to the state governments, they see 3 models. They actually don't see the German model as being the best model. They don't see our model actually as being the best model. They see the Swiss model as being the best model. It's much more about developing young people at a much, much earlier age and in a way partitioning them into careers. I don't think that's necessarily the right thing. But they certainly see the Swiss model as being probably the model that they would want to adopt. So I think, as a UK, we are there or thereabouts. I think that we're transforming our apprenticeship model with the levy, purchasing power into the hands of employers. The levy is here to stay. The levy, I am sure, will...
Even with the potential change in government, maybe, I mean, obviously,
I think cross-party support for the levy. I think we will see the levy over time introduced to more employers, more paying employers of the levy. So the 3 million threshold will probably reduce, not necessarily to everybody. And therefore, I think that we will see apprenticeships be much more employer responsive. The danger is we will have potential apprenticeships that are very much bespoke to an employer. And we need to make sure that for particularly young people, that those apprenticeships still are portable apprenticeships. They still have qualifications with them. They still have high quality attached to them. And therefore that young person, particularly young people, can take that apprenticeship certificate, that apprenticeship certification, and be able to be really truly portable on an international stage, and not just confined to the employer that they gained it with, particularly if it was a smaller employer.
Okay. If I could talk a little bit about small businesses, I mean, these days everybody's talking about apprenticeships, one way or another. And and again, if an organisation is tendering for opportunities, you mentioned yourself a part of your supply chain. It mentions that are you investing in sort of skills and apprenticeships and so forth. So the sort of everybody's sort of aware of apprenticeships. They may not know exactly what it is, but they've heard about apprentices and apprenticeships. And if somebody's sort of starting off, looking at potentially an opportunity to maybe have a sort of a workforce of apprentices, what advice would you give to the employer first, who've never really looked at that in terms of?
I think the first thing is look at where you want to go as a business. What does your business plan tell you? So if you are a small digital media agency and you're looking to grow your business, just look at what the sort of skill set you want as an organisation. And then I think open your eyes, go and talk to people, get people like 3As or other organisations to come and talk to you about the opportunities that apprenticeships can deliver to your organisation. And then I think engage with an organisation where you think you can build an effective partnership again. So we engage with about 2,500 employers a year, mainly SMEs actually. And actually, where it works really well is where it is an effective partnership, such that if they take on an apprentice and that apprentice just doesn't work out for them, what we do is we take that apprentice back from that organisation and place them in another job somewhere else. That employer is still committed to taking an apprentice. It just doesn't work for that individual. And that happens, that's life, isn't it? So that's what relationships are about.
It's a fit, isn't it, sometimes?
And therefore, it's about engaging with a partner that you think you can work with along the ups and downs and the rocky road that you go through. And I think that's probably the key thing. And we've got lots of businesses, huge numbers of businesses that, particularly young businesses, actually particularly businesses who are graduates who've built their businesses, who have experienced apprenticeships, see the benefits that the apprenticeships can bring, and are building their business with apprenticeships at the heart of that business. And I was entertaining, actually, give you a little story, I was entertaining at the local football ground only 6 weeks ago, just before the end of the season. And we had two guests on the table, a young man, early 20s, and his partner. And I said, how are you? Who are you? And he said, well, I'm such and such, and I've got my own media business. That's really interesting. So why are you on the table then? He said, well, it's a really interesting story. I was an apprentice that you trained me through 3As. And I've now set up my business, and I've just taken my first apprentice. And he was 21 years of age. And what a great story.
Must have been a great feeling.
It was.
Congratulations for that. Any sort of words of advice for young people, parents? Again, they've heard about apprenticeship opportunities. If they're sort of just doing their exams now, thinking about opportunities for themselves with sort of colleges, maybe even university level. What sort of words of advice or encouragement?
Again, talking this morning, I was with the chief exec of the Multi-Academy Trust that I'm involved with, and we had a good 45 minutes talking about the future of sixth forms, the future of the role of schools and trusts. And we all know it's very difficult to get into schools to talk to people about apprenticeships. And we know why. Because there isn't the engagement. Because actually, as a head teacher, you want them in your sixth form. It's not in their interest for financial reasons and for a whole variety of reasons. But actually, if we look at the levy, and I think the levy is going to be transformational in the way businesses recruit people. we can now go through an accountancy qualification through an apprenticeship route. We can now go through a solicitor's qualification through an apprenticeship route. And we see already large organisations changing their recruitment patterns away from graduates in favour of 18-year-olds.
Okay.
And I think if we look forward 3, 4, 5 years, that will be the norm. So if you go to university, there's a real risk that you then want to get a job in a profession, and you may not be able to get a job because those jobs have been filled by 18-year-old A-level students or even 16-year-old students. So I think if you're 14 years of age, 15 years of age, start to talk to people. You know, get your parents to talk to people. Come and talk to providers like us, even though you are not necessarily job ready for another 2 years. And go to careers fairs, go to the world skills events, and go and try and understand what you think is going to happen, because the recruitment pattern of organisations is going to change dramatically. And apprenticeships provides a very, very worthwhile experience. I have apprentices in my business that have just finished their level 4 programmes. I have one apprentice that is 20 years of age, and money isn't everything, but he earns £60,000 a year within our business because he's very talented and he's used the experience and the skills during his apprenticeship with us, 2 apprenticeships, a level 3 and a level 4 apprenticeship, and he's become an incredibly valuable member of our team.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic story there. Peter, I think you're a fantastic ambassador for apprentices. Obviously yourself being one, you talk about it generally as well. Whenever I've seen you doing a presentation or whatever the case is, you're a big supporter of apprentices. Obviously your family, yourself as well, you know, you've encouraged them down the route of apprentice, and really, you know, somebody
they didn't have a choice. It's a bit like being a Derby County fan. They didn't give them a choice.
You don't have a choice. So I think but you're also an ambassador, I believe, in terms of entrepreneurial spirit, sort of all, you know, about innovation and so forth. And I think, you know, generally business owners can also learn from you and look up to you. And I really feel, I really appreciate your time today. Really appreciate the fact that you've showed us around. And again, thank you very much for your support.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Peter.
Really good. Thank you very much for seeing it.
Thank you.